Hello everybody, welcome to Flannery's genealogy videos. My name is Brian Flannery, and today I'm going to discuss my mother's side of the family, which is the Campbell family. This Campbell family came from Lawrence County, Kentucky to Carter County, Kentucky in 1942, somewhere in that neighborhood, in the fall or winter of that year. Basically, the story has been told through the generations. Through my papa told it direct to me, and then of course my two uncles also told the story and little nuances of the story throughout. So I'll do my best to replicate that to the best of my knowledge and memory. So if you see this in your family and you've heard this story and you have another version or another tidbit to add, please comment in the video comments and let us know what maybe I forgot something. So that's one reason I'm doing these kind of videos is to preserve the memory and the story told. My papa's name was Walter Campbell. Jim Walter Campbell was his name. He was born in 1927 and he passed away in 2006. And he moved his family to Pactolus, Carter County, and like I say, when he was 13 years old, around 1942. So the story goes that a good friend of his, Otto Chaffins, I guess he would have went to school with him. Well, him and his family were getting ready to move to Grayson, to this Wilhoit farm. So Otto's father, Sam Chaffins, was the father going to move his family down there. So my papa is either going to the store or is after church, somewhere along the lines. He takes and stops by the Chaffins home and say, hey, I wanted to stop by and see you all before you pulled out for Grayson, and wanted to see Otto, and Sam said, well, now, son, we're not going to leave. We're staying here. Otto's getting ready to get married, and uh, he's getting ready to marry his fiancee, Pearl. I can't remember her maiden name, but Pearl and Otto were getting ready to be married. So Sam said, we're not going to leave. We're just going to stay right here. And I believe he said, hey, you and your dad ought to go down there and see about renting that farm. And that really excited my papa, and he took and left uh, Sam and Otto after visiting a few minutes and said, I'm gonna go home. So he went straight home, started talking to Millard, and the family said, hey, Sam and the family are not going to rent that farm, and Sam thought we ought to try to go down there and rent that farm, be a good move for us. And so they discussed it, and they decided they would, and so they took and had to go. So he was going to go to Grayson and see Calhoun, and he had taken and took off walking and left from Cherokee, which is a few miles south of Webbville. Left there and went towards Grayson, and he walked part of it, and I believe that he rode some maybe with the mail carrier back to Grayson that way. He took and got down there around supper time, got to see Calhoun. It was probably about Calhoun's quitting time because he was a lawyer. Got to see him and invited him to spend the night, and he ate supper with Calhoun and the family. And Calhoun, after eating supper, said, I'm going to go to the picture show. Said, would you like to go? And Millard said, no, I'm going to just stay here. So he took and stays there, and they say the servants, Millard said the servants really had 100 questions to ask him, about different things, and how many kids and what have you, where do you live, and just it was really inquisitive about what was going on. And so Millard talks to him a little while, then he goes on to bed. And so they go on to bed, and the next morning, Millard gets up, and Calhoun takes him to the farm and shows him to the farm and shows him around in the house. And He said, "Yeah." I said, we'll take it." And so we don't know if Calhoun took Millard back to Lawrence County or if Millard walked and hitchhiked his way back home. I don't know that for sure. But anyway, Millard headed back to home, and in the meantime, Calhoun had to go see Sam Chaffins, and Sam was the one that was going to rent the farm in the beginning. So Calhoun goes see Sam to double check, say, hey, are you not going to rent it? And of course, Sam says no, and he says Millard Campbell came and inquired about renting the farm. So Sam says, yeah, that'd be good. And Sam, and how talk would be. So Calhoun asks Sam or somebody there, how would you know? Uh, how do I get to where they live? And basically give him directions and said, when you come across the prettiest farm you'll see, that'll be their farm. And so that was a feather in the cap of the Campbell family when Calhoun seen their farm and how pretty it was and how maintained it was. So he takes and comes and sees the Campbell family and says, "Yes, you can move." And the person that was renting the farm, he's going ahead and moving. So anytime you would want to move, you can come on. Now, mind you, this is fall and winter time, uh, which is the roads were bad and things were bad. It wasn't easy traveling. So he takes Calhoun leaves and they decide about moving. Well, Millard had to go get business done. That's what we've been told. We had to go to the bank, and I've also remember that see my Millard Campbell made sorghum molasses, and I believe that he had to go somewhere and get his furnace and mill and pan brought home too. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe he did. He had to bring that home, and and all in the meantime doing this business before they moved. He riding back home to Cherokee, he rode in the back of a truck, very cold weather, and got an earache. And Papa said when he came up the road from the spring and the rock cliff, said he was crying. He was hurting so bad. His ears was hurting so bad. And so they got him in there and they wrapped his head in like a scarf and tried to doctor the best way they could. But then Walter seen the need of, hey, we need to get this moving. We need to get him to a doctor. Need to get him moved to Grayson where there'd be more care. They actually had a hospital in Grayson at the time, the Stovall Hospital. So Walter sees the urgency for that and starts the process. Uh, Walter goes and contracts a truck, which we believe was a Thompson that had a truck, and that Thompson was hired to come move them to Grayson. So in the meantime, they set a time for the truck to come. Then Walter starts packing the furniture and packing things up to get them to move. Basically taking everything they could, loaded up, and they take it out on the rock cliff, waiting on that truck. Because the rock cliff, there was a road that come up the holler and went up, and then there was a spring right here. Then the road went on up a little bit more, and then up into where the actual farm was. So they take Walter has all the furniture and everything. Millard's in the house, and they have everything laid out there in the on the spring. The truck loads. They load everything up on a day. Everything they owned was on that truck. Everything they owned and the family were in that truck and went to Pactolus in Grayson, near Grayson. So they're headed down that way to the Wilhoit farm. And even at that time, it wasn't like an hour trip. It was probably a few hour trip to be able to do this. So um, in the meantime, Papaw, which was Walter Campbell, him and his brother Ray and brother-in-law Red Spillman, James Red Spillman, they moved the cattle down from Cherokee, and they walked them cattle all the way from Cherokee to Grayson. and I don't know how many head they had, but they walked a milk cow maybe I don't know how many head they had, but they walked them all the way down there. And the reason I remember that is they said that Ray, he rode the horse, and he would block the driveway so the cow wouldn't go down in people's driveways. Most people had fences back then that would kind of made an alleyway, if you will. So they drove the cattle, and then the Thompson and the Campbell family are in the truck. They go past Pactolus into Greenup County, and they said they went to the Big Scott Curve, which is if you're from around here, it's where Larry Scott lives now. And they stopped at the old farmhouse there and inquired about the Wilhoit farm, and told them, said, well, you go back up the road, and said when you see the big white house on the hill, that's where you'll go. And they went there and moved in, started unloading things, and got moved into the house. So in the meantime, I would assume that Calhoun seen them come through, or heard that they had moved in, and Calhoun comes down to maybe the next day or two, comes down to check on them, and sees that Millard is in pretty bad shape. So they inquire of the doctor and get the doctor down there. I think his name was Doc Bishop. Doc Bishop comes and starts treating Millard for ear trouble. And they said he come down there every day and treated Millard. And of course Walter and everybody had got down there by that time, and one day Calhoun came by checking on him, and Millard told Calhoun, said, you might have made a mistake. I'm not well. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. And Calhoun said, this boy here, talking about Walter, said, this boy right here can do everything needed on this farm, and it'll be all right. Main thing is you getting better. So, and that was basically the case. They took and Papa, he plowed the ground, he done the work, he done all of it, and took and started farming there on the Wilhoit farm. And my great grandpa Millard got better and helped with the farming. Now they worked there a few years. Also, they had the Webster family had a store in Pactolus, and they went to that little store, and the Webster man told Millard, said, now we have charge accounts, said you can charge your groceries here through the year. Then at the end of the year, you can pay your store bill. And he said, well, fine. So they set up a store account, and the story goes that Millard and they go over and buy stuff. Well, they said the kids was going back and forth across the bridge. They go get this and they go get that. And they got the bill at the end of the year, and it was way more higher than they thought it should be, or Millard thought it should be. And if Millard was anything like my papa Walter, he was pretty tight with his money. And so he told him, he said, now we didn't come down here to give all our money to this store. We come down here to make a living and to earn money. So he said, we'll make a list, and we'll take and go once a week to the store. So if you want something or need something, he said, write it down here on this, and you can go get it. So he and they probably didn't take everything they had that year, but again, my family is pretty frugal when it comes to finances. So they take and do that. All in the same time, World War II is breaking out. Ray Campbell, the older brother, and Luther Campbell are in the World War II. They're in the Army. And Walter gets deferred 3 times. Calhoun helps him get deferred. And finally, though, at the end of the war time, he had to go in for 6 months. And he went in for 6 months' time. I think he said it was $70 a month he got paid. And he was, I think, in Fort Hood, Texas is where he was at. And he said it was hot. But basically, he got paid $70 a month, and the government had a program where you could take and send so much money home, and the government would double that. So Papa said I would take and send $50 a month home, and he kept 20 back for himself. so he kept 20 back, and he said there really wasn't no need for money. He said we had all the food we could eat, all the cigarettes and chewing tobacco, whatever. He said they gave you everything you really needed. He said there wasn't hardly no use for money. He said they give you everything. So he kept $20 a month back, and he sent 50 home. So the government matched that, which made 100. He made 100, sent $100 home. So 6 months, that was $600. Well, the intention of sending that money home was for Millard and Cora to use that to help hire labor or whatever they needed. And Millard didn't do that. He took and saved that money for Walter and kept it back. So he takes and keeps that money back for Walter. When they get home, when Walter gets home from the war, he takes and tells him, "No, son, your money's up there in the bank. So you go up there and get it." And he said, "Well, I thought you was going to use that money." He said, "Well, no, we didn't need it." So anyway, they had $600 basically there, and then they had sold corn that year and picked it by hand. They sold it to the coal mines and brickyard at Hitchens for mules. They sold their corn crop to them and contracted for 4.25 a bushel. And that was a lot of money in the 40s for corn. And of course, they sold their tobacco, and they sold probably eggs and milk and everything else. And in 3 years' time, or however many years it was, they had took and made enough money to buy a farm, and they bought 60 acres, I believe, off of Tony Suttles there at Pactolus. And I still own about 2 acres of that property, the original farm. It's now a housing development, but I still own 2 acres of that. So they really come out and prospered, and the Wilhoit family and the Campbell family have always been close. Maybe not buddy buddy, but there's always been a mutual respect there. Matter of fact, the Wilhoit family are still the attorneys and lawyers for the Campbell family today. So it's been a relationship that started in the 40s and continues on today. And I am thankful that my papaw had the gumption and the grit to do things like that. And God really blessed them in doing that, to give the strength and the courage to a 13-year-old person to do that, to get that, have that ability to do that. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and I really enjoyed sharing it. And if you got any comments, be sure and comment. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell that you would know when I post new videos, and we'll try to keep sharing genealogy, farm, and just whatever the good Lord puts on my heart. So hope everybody has a blessed day, and God bless.